Today, let's talk about something that haunts us all, one of the most fundamental quests of human existence. And no, I'm not talking about wealth or fame, it's something far more elusive and often frustrating. The happiness. At some point in your life, have you ever wondered why, despite all our efforts to achieve it, happiness often seems like a mirage in the desert? The more we chase it, the further it slips away. It's as if the universe is laughing at us with this cruel joke. But today, we'll dive into what I call the paradox of happiness. The more you seek it, the further it recedes. And I promise you, by the end of this philosophical journey, you'll have a completely new perspective on what it means to be truly happy. So stick around, because what we're about to discover together might just change the way you live your life. Let's start. Since time immemorial, philosophers, thinkers, and ordinary people have been obsessed with happiness. Think about it. Isn't it the main driver behind almost all our decisions? We choose a career, buy a house, get married, travel, all with the implicit hope that these actions will bring us that sweet feeling of well-being. But what happens when that pursuit turns into a rat race, an incessant chase that only leaves us exhausted and more unhappy? This is the essence of the paradox. If happiness is so desirable, why do the methods we use to obtain it often fail us so spectacularly? The problem lies in how we define and perceive happiness. We tend to see it as a destination, a hidden treasure at the end of a map, or a goal that, once achieved, will grant us a permanent state of bliss. This conception, however, is profoundly flawed and is the root of our frustration. Imagine for a moment that happiness is a butterfly. If you run after it with a net, desperately swinging it, you'll most likely scare it away. But if you stand still, relax, and offer it some sweet nectar, the butterfly might delicately land on your shoulder. Happiness is much more like that butterfly than we might think. It can't be caught by brute force or obsessive chasing. Philosophically speaking, this idea is not new. The ancient Greeks, fathers of much of our Western thought, debated the nature of happiness. Think about this. How many times have you felt truly happy after an act of selfless kindness, or after mastering a difficult skill, or when solving a complex problem? Those moments, even if we don't shout with joy, leave us with a deep sense of satisfaction and purpose. But the modern world, with its constant bombardment of perfect life images on social media, has conditioned us to think of happiness as something external. We're told we need the new car, the exotic vacation, the ideal body, or the perfect partner to be happy. And so we fall into the trap of happiness consumerism, where we believe that buying or acquiring things will bring it to us. The problem is that the pleasure we get from these things is fleeting. The novelty quickly fades, and we soon find ourselves craving the next purchase, the next fix for our unhappiness. It's a vicious cycle, a treadmill where no matter how much we run, we never get anywhere. A fascinating study from the University of California, Berkeley, found that people who deliberately try to be happier often end up feeling worse. Why? Because the pressure of having to be happy becomes an additional burden. If one day you feel a little sad or anxious, and you've convinced yourself that happiness is your main goal, then you perceive any negative emotion as a personal failure. This is exhausting and counterproductive. Happiness cannot be forced. It's like trying to force someone to love you. The harder you try, the more they resist. So, what's the alternative? If the direct pursuit of happiness, it is not the true path, what should we do? The key, and this is crucial, is to stop directly seeking happiness and start building a meaningful life. Happiness, in this new perspective, isn't the destination, is a byproduct. It's the aroma that emanates from a life well lived, a life with purpose, with connection, and with a sense of contribution. It's the butterfly that lands on your shoulder when you stop chasing it and focus on other things. Think of it this way. When you immerse yourself in an activity you're passionate about, something that completely absorbs you, are you aware of whether you're happy or unhappy at that moment? Probably not. You're in a state of flow, a term coined by psychologist Mihai. In flow, time seems to disappear, and you get lost in the activity. Whether it's painting, writing, coding, or even solving a complex problem at work, when you're in flow, you're so immersed that your self-awareness and emotions fade. And yet, after exiting that state, you often feel a deep satisfaction and a sense of fulfillment. That is the happiness that arises from dedication and commitment, not from obsessive searching. If the direct pursuit of happiness is a false path, how do we reorient our inner compass? The answer, surprisingly, lies in accepting the paradox itself, in understanding that happiness is not a constant, is a fluctuating experience, a byproduct of living a life with intention. This leads us to the importance of acceptance. And here a powerful and ancient philosophy comes into play: Stoicism. The Stoics, like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, did not seek happiness as an end in itself. For them, the virtuous life was the primary goal, and happiness, or at least serenity and tranquility, was a natural consequence of living in accordance with reason and nature. Seneca, for example, reminded us that much of our suffering comes from our uncontrolled desires and our aversion to what we cannot change. We cannot control the weather, the actions of other people, and most external circumstances. The only thing we can truly control is our response to those circumstances. If you focus on controlling the uncontrollable, you will be endlessly frustrated. But if you direct your energy to what you can control, your thoughts, your attitudes, your actions, then you will find a source of inner peace that is immune to the whims of the outside world. Think about this. How much energy do we spend worrying about things that are completely beyond our control? Imagine freeing that energy and redirecting it towards something constructive. That is the essence of Stoic teachings and a direct path to tranquility, which is a much more sustainable form of happiness than momentary euphoria. Another crucial point is the distinction between pleasure and meaning. Pleasure is fleeting. A good ice cream, a day of shopping, a night out, all these can bring us pleasure. And there's nothing wrong with pleasure. It's part of the human experience. But pleasure by itself doesn't build a meaningful life. Meaning, on the other hand, comes from things like personal growth, deep relationships, contributing to something larger than oneself, and overcoming challenges. When you strive to learn a new skill, even if it's difficult and sometimes frustrating, the sense of accomplishment at the end is much deeper than that of a simple pleasure. When you help someone in need, the well-being you feel is not just pleasure, it is a connection to a greater purpose. Dr. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote in his book Man's Search for Meaning that the primary human motivation is not pleasure, it is the search for meaning. He observed that those who managed to survive the horrors of the concentration camps were not necessarily the physically strongest, but those who had a purpose, a reason to live, something to fight for. Their wives, their unfinished work, a family member they wanted to see again. Frankl argued that meaning is not something given to us, but is something we actively discover or create in our lives. And in finding that meaning, happiness often appears as an unexpected consequence. It's the classic example of the paradox. Don't directly seek happiness, seek meaning, and happiness will find you. Here's a practical tip derived from all this. To stop chasing happiness and start attracting it, you need to cultivate gratitude. When we're obsessed with what we don't have or what we lack to be happier, we're blind to the countless blessings that already exist in our lives. Gratitude is the antidote to a scarcity mindset. It's not about being naive or ignoring problems. It's about rebalancing our perspective. A simple but powerful exercise is to keep a gratitude journal. Every day, spend 5 minutes writing down 3 things you're grateful for. They can be big things like a loved one's health, or small things like a warm cup of coffee, a beautiful sunset, or a song that made you smile. At first, it might feel forced, but over time, you train your brain to notice the positive. And a mind that's more attuned to the positive is, by nature, a happier mind. Positive psychology studies have consistently shown that people who regularly practice gratitude report higher levels of positive emotions, optimism, and life satisfaction. It's a minimal investment with a gigantic return on your well-being. Another important thing is to accept the full range of human emotions. Society often pressures us to be always happy, which is an unrealistic and harmful expectation. Life is full of ups and downs, and experiencing sadness, frustration, anger, or fear is completely normal and healthy. These emotions give us valuable information and help us grow. If we try to repress or deny these emotions, they don't disappear. They simply get bottled up and resurface later in less healthy ways. Think of a river. If you try to stop its flow, the water stagnates and becomes stagnant. But if you allow it to flow freely, even if it's sometimes turbulent, it remains a living river. Mindfulness is a powerful tool here. It's about being present in the current moment, non-judgmentally, and observing your thoughts and emotions as they are. When you feel sadness, instead of fighting it or judging yourself for feeling it, you simply observe it. Here is sadness. I feel it in my chest. It's a heavy sensation. By doing this, you take away its power. You realize that you are not your emotion. You are the observer of the emotion. And this distance allows you to experience it without being consumed by it. The irony is that by allowing yourself to feel sadness, it often passes more quickly, and you open yourself up again to the possibility of joy. Continuing our journey, if happiness is a byproduct and not a direct goal, then where should we focus our energy? The answer is human connection. We are social creatures by nature. Our brains are hardwired for connection, for belonging. Think about the happiest moments of your life. How many of them don't involve other people? Celebrations, shared laughter, comfort in difficult times, unconditional support. Loneliness, on the other hand, is a powerful destroyer of happiness, and research has shown it has a health impact comparable to smoking or obesity. In an increasingly digital world where connections are often limited to a like on a photo or a quick comment, it's more important than ever to prioritize face-to-face interactions and build meaningful relationships. It's not about having hundreds of superficial social media friends, but about cultivating a handful of deep, authentic relationships where you feel seen, heard, and understood. This requires time, effort, and vulnerability. It means being present for others, actively listening, offering support, and sometimes simply sharing a comfortable silence. Here's a powerful advice. Invest in your relationships. Call that friend you haven't talked to in a while. Plan a dinner with your family. Offer to help a neighbor. Be intentional about building and maintaining those bonds. And remember, reciprocity is key. It's not just about receiving, it's giving too. When we give to others, we activate the reward circuit in our brain, releasing oxytocin, the cuddle hormone, which makes us feel good and strengthens social bonds. This is another manifestation of the paradox. By giving, we receive. By contributing to the well-being of others, our own well-being increases. But we're not just talking about relationships with other human beings. I'm also referring to connecting with something larger than ourselves. For some, this is spirituality or religion. For others, it's a connection with nature, art, music, or a social cause. When you feel part of something that transcends your individual existence, life acquires a depth and meaning that goes beyond the pursuit of personal happiness. This can be as simple as spending time in a forest, marveling at the vastness of the night sky, or joining a volunteer group to clean up a park. These experiences take us out of our own heads and connect us with the world in a way that nourishes our soul. Another fundamental element in building a meaningful life, and thus attracting happiness, is personal growth. As human beings, we have an intrinsic need to learn, improve, and develop ourselves. When we stagnate, when we feel we're not progressing, dissatisfaction sets in. This doesn't mean we should be constantly chasing the next big achievement, rather that we should be open to new experiences, to learning new skills, and to challenging ourselves in healthy ways. This may sound contradictory, but embrace failure. Society teaches us to fear failure, to see it as the end of the road. But in reality, failure is an invaluable teacher. Every time we fail at something, we have an opportunity to learn, to adjust our approach, and to grow. People who avoid risk for fear of failure often deprive themselves of the experiences that could most enrich their lives and lead them to greater happiness. Think of any successful person you admire. I guarantee their path was paved with failures they knew how to transform into lessons. Don't punish yourself for making mistakes. Analyze them, learn from them, and move forward. That resilience is a pillar of a life well lived. Self-compassion also plays a crucial role. We are often our own harshest critics. We talk to ourselves in a way we would never talk to a friend. If happiness is a butterfly, self-criticism is the scarecrow that drives it away. Treat yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and patience you would offer a loved one who is suffering or struggling. Recognize that you are human, that you make mistakes, and that you are doing the best you can with the resources you have. When you practice self-compassion, you reduce the pressure of having to be happy and allow yourself to simply be human. And in that acceptance of your humanity, of your imperfections, you often find a peace that is a profound form of happiness. We've explored the paradox of happiness, unraveling why its direct pursuit often eludes us. We've seen how ancient philosophy and modern psychology converge on the idea that happiness is more a byproduct of a life well lived than a goal in itself. But now let's delve into how to integrate all this into our daily lives, transforming theory into practice so that happiness, that elusive butterfly, can land on our shoulder. One of the fundamental pillars for a meaningful life is purpose. And I don't mean a grand, world-changing purpose. I mean purpose in your everyday life. What gets you out of bed in the morning? What gives you a sense of direction? It could be your job, your family, hobby, volunteering, or even learning something new. When you have a purpose, your actions have meaning, and that meaning is a key ingredient for satisfaction. To find your purpose, answer these questions. What am I passionate about? What problems would I like to solve? What legacy do I want to leave, however small? The answers don't have to be grand. They can be as simple as, I want to be a good parent, or I want to master my craft. Once you identify what drives you, align your actions with it. When your values and actions are in sync, you experience a coherence that gives you peace. A common mistake we make is postponing happiness. We often say, I'll be happy when I get that job, when I lose weight, when I get married, or when I retire. This mindset is a trap. It condemns us to live in a hypothetical future, missing out on the present. The truth is that happiness is not a destination you arrive at. It's a journey you experience in the here and now. It's finding beauty in the small things. The sun on your face, the taste of your food, child's laughter, the music that moves you. This is the power of mindfulness that we mentioned before, not just for managing emotions, also a way of life to savor every moment. Do this exercise every day. The gratitude pause. Several times a day, stop for a minute and focus on one single thing you're grateful for in that precise moment. It could be the air you breathe, the comfort of your chair, the fact that you have clean drinking water. They don't have to be extraordinary things. This simple act of stopping and appreciating the ordinary trains your brain to notice more of the abundance in your life rather than the scarcity. You'll be surprised by the gradual shift in your perspective. We must talk about balance too. In our pursuit of success or happiness, we often become obsessed with one area of our lives, neglecting others that are equally vital for our well-being. A successful career can be gratifying, but if health, relationships, or time for oneself suffer, happiness will be unsustainable. Think of your life as a three-legged stool. Physical and mental health, meaningful relationships, and purpose. If one leg is too short or broken, the stool wobbles. It's important that you intentionally dedicate time to each of these areas. It's not about perfection, it's about consistent progress. Schedule time to exercise, to eat well, and to rest. Make a conscious effort to connect with your loved ones. And make sure you have activities that give you a sense of purpose or allow you to express yourself creatively. This holistic approach is key to lasting happiness. Finally, let me be very clear. Happiness is not a constant state of ecstasy. It's a complex blend of joy, satisfaction, peace, and even the ability to face sadness and adversity with resilience. It's not the absence of problems, it's the presence of internal resources to handle them. Life will always have challenges. The paradox of happiness shows that by ceasing to pursue it as an elusive end and instead focusing on building a life with purpose, meaning, connection, and growth, we will find it, not as a goal achieved, but as the sweet reward of a journey well lived. So, the next time you feel frustrated in your search for happiness, remember our conversation. Stop chasing the butterfly. Instead, cultivate your garden. Plant seeds of purpose, gratitude, and connection, and you'll see how happiness, unexpectedly and naturally, comes to rest upon you. Because at the end of the day, true happiness is not something you find, it's something you create. Tell me in the comments one thing you're going to start doing differently from today to cultivate your own garden of happiness. Will it be practicing gratitude? Connecting more deeply with someone? Embracing a new purpose? Your answer will be a valuable contribution to this video. Subscribe to my channel, and remember that your journey towards more authentic happiness begins now, not tomorrow. Thanks for joining me.